I am Pobadimu, the advocate of Idlozi, and once again I welcome you to the channel and thank you so much for choosing to view this video. If you still haven't subscribed to the channel, I suggest you do so just now, and don't forget to click on the notification button so that every time I upload new content to the channel, you are notified. Like this video and leave your comments down below. So this is a part 2 video stemming from yesterday's topics around aspects of umsamo. So we touched on very essential, rather critical parts in understanding, and thank you so much for the comments that I received and the feedback around the video. So to take you through just nje izinto, because sometimes you find that we're doing everything by the book. We go to consult, we go get these cleansings, we go get these things done and all of these other things, and the siyapahla, whatever the case might be, but generally things are just not looking up umsamo. I always say sometimes before as a healer you tackle someone's problem, it's important to get a background check of that person, because sometimes you might be fixing the problem and it's at the top, but sometimes you need to go underground to get to the root of the problem, to understand why is a person inflicted in this type of a way. Maybe there's stagnation in their life, maybe they're seeking some form of employment, maybe things are just not being indirective, or sometimes it is ancestrally related if that person has a calling. But let me tell you this, there is nothing as so painful as living your whole life raising all these kids to someday being someone's grandmother and then eventually passing on. You're being left at the graveside to decide, or rather fend for yourself, and you can only pass by your house but not enter the home, because protocol, spiritual, we forget that there's protocol to everything when it comes to the spiritual life. You cannot just do as you please. And if they are given access to the home, they do not roam around freely. It's only for a limited time. That's why sometimes I bring out the fact of saying sometimes why abanye abantu will struggle and say, Gogo, I'm struggling with my dreams, especially if they're gifted or they have a calling. Awukho umuthi we pupo or noma wama pupo. Don't be lied into someone telling you that they can give you umuti to remember your dreams. If you forget their dreams, it is not your message, or it wasn't the time for the message. And if you remember it, it meant that it was for you. But sometimes it's izinto that affects us, that causes maybe to forget amapupo or get the scribbles, because endlini or noma ejartini, there are scribbles around in the frequencies. So I always say umsamo serves as that magnetic field that structures the layers of energies around our places of stay. So if ekhaya gunomsam omkulu, that means the energies, that everything around that, it is balanced. Everything is balanced la ekhaya. But make sure that you go back to the previous video so that you are not that person otata amadlozi washia amanye ngaphandle, because sometimes you find ukuthi gogo, I've been pastoring, gogo, I've been praying, gogo, I've been doing this, but nothing is manifesting, because amanye amadlozi are stray ancestors and ebandlula ngendlela bayahlupheka la ngaphandle. But their argument is saying, how do you expect you to have impilo engcono, where else me as your parent, I am struggling ngiphila estradini, umuzi wami ngiyawundlula every single day. The pain in that. And when we are phahla ngapha ucela amadlozi akwenzile okuhle, kodwa sihluleka ukuthi sinakekele abazali bethu, noma sesazi ukuthi sebengale komathonga and they need us now more than ever. We don't necessarily understand the relationship between the living and those of the spirit, because it is a deep and a spiritual thing. We will always be linked, because Nati, whatever we are doing, we are passing it on, because Nati, at some point, we're gonna be those ancestors. Think of yourself, usushonile, wondering about, having other lozis assisting you with day-to-day basics. We are warm, we are that together, all these other things. And every day, hosting sessions or chilling, whatever the case might be, or we are they don't even have a care in the world. Every Sunday, they're carrying a Bible and they're going to church to praise the Lord. And they come back home, and it is painful, trust me. So sometimes we are catalysts to our own struggles in life by not actually adhering to imithetho esithole bazalini bethu. And if yes, there was no instruction or anything that was led to you, you came to this channel at a perfect time. This is a divine appointment type of situation. Stop procrastinating and stop complaining and actually do something about it, because you'd find that kunamanye amadlozi that necessarily you do not know their gravesite, or you do not know where they are buried, because cultures differs. When Miyama culture, they tend to go to, they take ilija from the grave of the person. Uma beyomlanda, you carry with you ilapha elimhlophe, and you put that stone there. Then umuntu nisuke nihamba naye nifike nibekele lezo zinto lezo ekuthiwa umsamo omkhulu, or rather, umsamo sekhaya. So sometimes if amanye amadlozi and mathola, amanye abantu will believe in this thing of saying ukuthi sizohamba siyomemezela ithuna, or noma siyomemezela ethuneni lakagogo. But I say approach every ancestor with respect and dignity, and if kunalaba and khona access abona, access those. If you have to make a trip, because sometimes enye into esibulalayo is that we bury our ancestors, we relocate so much that you find ubani is buried there, ubani is buried there, ubani is buried there. Make it a norm to actually have our bloodline or ancestry buried endaweni eyodwa. I know ukuthi we overlook, but we would say ukuthi abelungu, they buy land and they'd say they want the family of Smith to be buried here, but I actually think that is a smart move. They are actually avoiding this thing of saying ukuthi ugogo uncatshele edutya and we cannot access that grave because ituna leli selishonile, or noma whatever the case might be. They built a mall on that place because it is a reality. But if you have the funds to do so, purchase that land, maybe nizongcwatshwa ngamathuthu or whatever the case might be, but at least ibani endaweni eyi-1, because ukuyolanda umuntu, exhuming a body and burying it there, it is money. But if unayo or noma ubusisiwe, you have the funds to do so, I would honestly do that. Exhume all my family members. Ngibabeke nje endaweni eyi-1, sonke nje sibe la endaweni eyi-1, abodlamini babasendaweni eyi-1, abophike babasendaweni, abomvundla babasendaweni eyi-1, so that we avoid this thing. But what can we do? What has been done has been done. So there are also protocols around that. I cannot literally go into everything here. That's why I'm saying it is important sometimes to get some spiritual advice, be it from me or any trusted person that you can access to. If it's doing spiritual work, then you can get the necessary advice around that, because sometimes what we need to look at is that we don't necessarily understand ukuthi amanye amadlozi, how they passed on or whatever the case might be. Like I know in my family, bakhona abantu abashonile in mourning and they were never really done properly in terms of ukwenza all of these things. So that is why kuthiwa umuntu umumlanda umbuyise ekhaya, ubuyiswa ngenyongo, and lelo hlahla lelo labeka. Some abantu, they believe ukuthi the goat must consume ihlahla, or noma ihlahla liyabekwa lize liwome, to acknowledge that you also have found peace in the home. So those are certain aspects that we need to look at. But like I'm saying, if this message is hitting home and you know that you are residing in endlini kagogo noma kamkhulu, noma you have parents of your own, or as they are late and nothing of that matter was done, you must know that you are living on debt. Because yes, abazali will always be parents, protect us, fight for us in the spiritual, basilethele leyo nhlanhla leyo, but ekugcineni isikhalo sizoba yiwani, sicela ubuye ekhaya. They're not asking for much, but they are asking for this home. We can argue all we want, but lana kukadlozi. So that is the situation around umsamo owenzani owasekhaya. So izinto ezibekwe umsamo ziyahluka, because angithi masenza umsebenzi, we will need ukuthi sibeke inyama, sibeke kwangaphakathi, sibeke inyongo, sibeke utshwala, whatever the case might be. Kweminye imizi uzothola ukuthi sometimes bazobekela amakhamba or whatever the case might be under the tree, like I spoke izolo. Abanye isihlahla leso singaboshwa ngelabha elimhlophe, whereas every time kuhlabwa noma kwenziwa umsebenzi, that white material niyayichinja nifaka entsha, or ningathenga generally ibhayi nje that you use. But also make sure that leyo ndawo leyo is looked after, because one thing we forget that abantu bayaganga, and especially when they know where your weakness is, they tend to strike there. So that's why all the time it's important to make sure that if umsamo nizowenza at a particular place or whatever the case might be, you look after that place. Okay. So in light of I'm bringing amadlozi ekhaya, like I did say, guti senza umsebenzi. So you might be arguing and asking yourself, guti, so now where do we put the chickens? Where do we put all these things? If sizobekela ngaphandle, lapho ngaphandle nizoya, where else? Yo, that was long. So you go ngaphandle nizobe niyophahla lapho, but endlini uma senza umsebenzi, you either gonna use the main bedroom or nizosebenzisa just the living room, depending on the structure or the setting of the house, nokuthi ngendlela ekungayo as umndeni nizwana kanjani, because that is where nizobeka makhandlela nenze what some other people might say ukuthi iladi, where you will be putting fruits, you'll be putting your beers, you'll be putting your spirits, you'll be putting your wines, you'll be putting your cold drinks, you'll be putting food, nalezi into zobe nizihlabile like inyongo or whatever the case might be. So sometimes it's important that if you are embarking on something like this, where else you are starting umsamo wasekhaya. Sometimes I've seen these, sometimes it is ridiculous to a certain extent, because necessarily when you call someone or rather to help you with assembling or rather ugenza iladi, it also has its certain reasons or whatever the case might be. But between you and I don't want you to feel stressed or complicated or feel as though doing something like this for madlozako, it is going to cost you much. If nikalela pants, or rather you're starting over from scratch, basic things that you need to have emsamo wasekhaya if nizoyenza umsebenzi is ikansi, ikhamba, yinduku, ezomela abogogo, nezomela abo mkhulu, right? Amakhamba, you can have 2 or you can have 3, depending nakhona ukuthi umsamo uwenzeleni, because the reasons differ. Isitsha sempepho, isitsha sokudlela, iplate, I suggest you have 2 of each, matches, candles, and all these other things. I will not come here and also complicate your life and say to you that you need to light amakhandlela wonke or have the brown and the green candles. Like I did say on a previous video that I did speaking about candles, was saying to you, a person that's going to come to you and say, if you light a brown candle, you're speaking to abomkhulu. To me, that is other, because sometimes what happens in the case of you urgently need to pray and endlini all you have is a brown candle, because even with this a black candle usage, there's absolutely nothing wrong with using a black candle. A black candle, guti lona, it stands for protection, and it stands for, nakona, it depends on the energies you are lighting it around. So I don't necessarily have a bad picture when it comes to using a black candle, because I was like, let me use it myself, let me not be let me practice what I'm preaching, so that I come and relay a clear message to people and tell them there's nothing to be scared of. You're thinking you're gonna light a black candle and you're gonna see Mkulako turning into a vampire. No, absolutely not. So sometimes it is good that you pick the colors that you prefer to use. Like I was saying to you, what if it's an emergency and you need to pray, or endly load shedding happens? It means that because usele ngamakhandlela brown, mawuletela amakhandlela brown, abomkhulu bakho bamile, they just like, because the brown candle or the green candle assembles abomkhulu. So sometimes we need to think. I always say, go back to the previous video that I did on intention. It is important to know the intention why you are doing something, so that you have clarity as into why you are doing it. So because they need to ifani and whatever the case might be, you put those basics lapho. ibeke ishukela, ibeke impepho, ibeke rice, milk, honey, everything that you can think of that is of base. So that can be delegated between the family. Ukuthi sibekela kuphi lezo zinto lezo. But I say because ngaphandle nizoshisa impepho, nibikele, nibeke isilwane, nihlabe isilwane, endlini ke ningayenza that altar where else nani as a family magdliwa nizodla lapho. And important things, do not forget, uma nenze umsebenzi niqale niphakela amadlozi kuqala before niphuza, niqale niphuza kanjalo ningayenzi izinto nikhohle your guests of honor, because that is of importance. But like I said, it's important to seek some advice in terms of ukwenza imisebenzi, especially yabantu abadala. So coming back to the situations around the different altars. So now we're moving to the personal altar. If you want to have an altar for yourself, la uhlala khona, I'll just say the basics. You can have anything you want to put there. Mara, the basics around that is that at least have isitsha sempepho, have candela, have isnefi, have anything you feel you need to put there, because you cannot actually limit a person, because that is your spiritual expression of who you are. The problem is that we go around limiting people and saying umsamo needs, but we do not know what connection you want or are aiming to achieve with just your ancestors, or you just want to honor your ancestors. I've seen umsamo that have pictures, that have alcohol, that have anything. It is up to you what you want to put there, but it is a sign of acknowledgement that you have. So that's why I was saying, we've seen emizini abantu that banithixo abo Buddha, they put these things lovely, you go in there, it's all good and fun. So why cannot we have that? Get your scented sticks, get your scented candles. When you feel like, oh, I need to refresh my spirit, then you know that you go to your altar. But now go figure to that tricky part. You would see can we slaughter around that? Sometimes it limits us. But if you are slaughtering maybe a housewarming type of situation, and whatever the case might be, I always say even with the preparation of the meat differs. I'd say if you're gonna slaughter a chicken, braai the chicken. Don't cook the chicken, braai the chicken. That also has its own significant purposes, and also accommodative of that uyahlaba, and it is not a kaya. And sometimes even in the case of slaughtering isilwane esikhulu, you need to know that if it is of permanent residence, then you can do so. But if usemxesheni or whatever the case might be, then tread lightly. Just yenza nje umqombothi, uthenge your King Khan, uthenge ubhatshut yakho, if maybe you're too lazy to do umqombothi. But umqombothi is not that much of a mission to do, I cannot give away my recipe, but it's not too much that of complicated to do. But yeka nukusebenzisa abomnandi, because it's not performed from scratch, because into nento oyenzayo uwenza umsebenzi wamadlozi iyakhuluma and iyabhula bantu besonto. So you make sure that you start everything that you're doing from your scratch. It is touched with your hands. You do, if there's assistance, make sure ukuthi loyo muntu loyo ukwenzela utshwala besintu, hayi imunati or imunandi. No, that is pre-mix, pre-whatever. So you do not generally have that in-depth reading of saying ukuthi bavumile abogogo vele bebazovuma umnandi awukaze wadisappointa. But umutshwala ubenze ngempela, you sometimes get there abubilanga, then we get to see ukuthi, oh, maybe the ceremony was not received all well, or kunenkinga esukhona that we need to fix, or sometimes maybe kunolaga emadlozini, or maybe utshwala bakho bubole. Ezinye izinto, we look at those things when we are coming to the ceremony. That is why uthola when people come emsebenzini wakho, the first thing that they ask is saying sicela umqombothi, because they want to survey, they want to check you out, So it's one of those things. So your personal altar is your personal altar at the end of the day, and umsamo, you can move it however you want to. But nakhona, one thing that we forget is that you must be direct. In terms of amadlozi, who are you speaking to? What do you want? Don't just dial the lozis and come back and stutter all night. Make sure that you are directive. And if you know that your parents were not married, umsamo is a neutral place. You can call your maternal and you can call your paternal, but not at the same time. You hear me? So you can ungaphahla ubizo umkhulu, and then uphahle ngapha mama ubizo ukhulu, but not at the same day, same time. Amadlozi and we So don't make sure ukuthi ubenza bafile otherwise, you know. Don't call and nge-airtime ka-Uncle Jack. Make sure that uma uthi uzophahla ufuna ukukhuluma nabantu beside laka, you know, you do that. And generally you just need to open up, because I always say umsamo is like a diary session that you are having namadlozi wakho. Sometimes you want to spill the tea to your dlozis and tell them, good, guys, I've been having a hectic day, or kunale bitch ehluphayo emsebenzini. You go there and open up about it and talk to your people and pray about it, of course, if there is something, whatever, because inkinga abe khona angithi ngapha nginyisa umjolo. So you want to tell your ancestors, good, I met this guy nimlethile or uzuzele. So you cannot go do that emsabi mkhulu, but umsamako, your personal space, and amadlozi are actually fluid to that. They appreciate the connection we try to have with them every time umasila candela, because like I did say in a previous video, is that lighting a candle serve as sending a location pin to amadlozi, good, bing, this is me umpobadimo, I'm calling you Bokoko, I just want to connect, whatever the case might be. And also umsamako, you can, but make sure now umsamako is in a good place. You can put your plants there, you can put anything you want, as long as you're not putting nyaupe there. Like, let's have some dignity for amadlozi. So umsamako can be an actually extension of, or rather an expression of, how you view your ancestors or how you honor your ancestors. And sometimes just generally say, this Sunday ngine lunch amadlozi, cook what you need to cook, up a storm plate lokala, serve the masses, serve the closies, and then uzlele have the thing. It doesn't have to be that deep, right? So then we have umsamo womuntu ogulayo ngedlozi. Yiyo leke imsamo oyithola enama Twin Towers, amalabi wonke, and all these other things, blah 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 blah. Because that ones are dramatic. So sometimes you find ukuthi you having loyo umsamo, maybe ekamereni lakho, but not necessarily ukuthi it's an established umsamo, because sometimes we tend to change our bedrooms or whatever. But yegana ukufaka ama imsameni emekamereni angcolile. Again, phakamiseni imibhedo, lift those beds, sweep underneath, you know, sweep, clean, man. You cannot bring your ancestors in such filthy places. Look out for your dlozi. Sometimes you might go, oh God, I'm forgetting my dreams. That time is Katulo Saga, Jack, Nikaus, Laramtuana, lihleli ngaphansi kombhedo lize ligedare idust. So clean around that and make sure you do the right things. All right. So in light of that, you look out, and umsamako maybe awusebenzisa just because maybe you are prayed ukuthi maybe uphahle ngo-12 nango-3 uzowenza lapha ekamereni lakho to connect namadlozi wakho, but that is an establishment of the relationship you are having namadlozi wakho. Because once uwenza loyo msamo loyo, if uyihlushwa ngedlozi or whatever, or maybe you are given amabhulu, that is where you put izinto zakho, amabhayi wakho, ubuhlalo bakho, whatever it is. Maybe usuke ulindile noma preparing for indlela ezayo esuke ikhomba la ikhomba khona. So imsam lena generally iyahluka, because kunabantu abathwele nabo banemsam, they have their own altars where they give to their juju, they go there to speak to their juju. And kunabantu just nje abanemsam because maybe uhambile umuntu wayo consulta and you are told ukuthi maybe you need to connect namadlozi wakho. But it's important to state your case, state who you are, whatever the case might be. The trick around to all of this is that amadlozi will attend to you, mara they will not stay. I don't know if you understand. That's what Vagasha attend to you, whatever, but they will not stay. So that is why kuba nomsamo omkhulu asekhaya, where else amadlozi siwathola lapho. That is where we go to do all of these spiritual things. Siyahamba siyophahla, uyobika, you got a job, you bought a car, you do this, then umalume uyavela nesquabble sakhe uzokushisela impepho, and all of those things are in between, because now we know that generally kunezinto ezimele zilungiswe ekhaya. But if at all, with all these things that I've said, sometimes it is important that before we step into these things, we look at the situation, because bonke labantu laba sebahamba. So now it's important to also look at the aspects of mangithi, sometimes cleaning the yard. It's not necessarily about ukhipha imithi ofakelwe abantu. Sometimes it's just about removing the veil esukibi khona, that spider web gwashona. Spiritually, how I see that, or how it's being shown in my eyes, excuse me, there's no growth, there's no life in the house, everything is dull and gray. But once you get that spiritual cleansing done, then and then they can be life again. People can laugh and everything again, because there's nothing as painful as saying, because uthenga ukudla endlini kuyaphela. Sometimes sikhomba ubuthakathi, and sometimes amadlozi labo. Imali ayihlala esandleni, we always saying ukuthi ubuthakathi, and sometimes amadlozi. Uyadla, uyasutha, you comfortable, you warm, you everything, but then your mother, the woman that brought you la emhlabeni, is just wandering about. Manga try to connect her nawe, it's a demon, they are using her face. So ezinye izinto, we need to look at them ngaleyo ndlela leyo. We would stop being child ridiculous amounts of money in the name of saying ukuthi sikhipha isipoki lapha ekhaya. A person might not necessarily understand, but they might be saying isipoki, and your own ancestors are terrorizing you. But uma kune umsamo ekhaya, nazi ukuthi sibekile izinto zabogogo, I trust you. Indlu enedlozi ngaphakathi, abalali bangadlanga abantu balakho, no matter how blue, noma ningalala nidle isinkwa nebisi, but idlozi will make provision no matter what. But la kune struggle, uzwe indlu ngena kunuka indlala, uzothola ukuthi umama nobaba walapho bashona, nempilo lapho iyapeta, bonke bahlanga. Like ezinye izinto, you just need to look at them and think to yourself ukuthi, what is happening here? Young understander, be logical, because that's why I said sometimes we are too quick at diagnosing inkinga yomuntu from the top and not understanding ukuthi sometimes the problem iba phansi lena at the root of the problem emsamo noma endleleni edlozi, because kunezinto ekufuze ukuthi zilungise. You cannot expect to be living a life of success, attaining all these things, whatever the case might be, or sometimes you attain all these other things, and then idlozi, at the time you feel now it's time for my breakthrough, and nothing makes sense. Maybe amadlozi wakho in your family, they chose you, or rather they appointed you ukuthi kube uwe noma obalungiselayo, or rather that brings together imindeni. Remember, we are all gifted differently. Some of us are the glues to our families. Some of us are what holds the families together. They might feel ignorant, or rather not knowledgeable around izinto zamadlozi, but if you can come up with a suggestion and say, yazibo gogo, I know 1 2 3 uana washona and all of these other things, can't we do something at least to bring amadlozi wetekaya? But I want to actually touch your heart and say to this, if it is a parent of yours and you know that izinto azihlangani noma azikhanyi, let us go back to the drawing board. Kwenzakalani ngomzali wami, uyangunderstanda, ungcwabeke kahle, what is the situation around that, ubuyisiwe ekhaya, what is the situation around that? Because like I always tell you, good people, what I always tell you is that sizuba amadlozi nathi someday, and kuyoba buhlungu because we'll be speaking, or rather speaking to deaf ears. You know, abantwana bethu will not be hearing us because they'll be like, but mom never showed us any of this and whatever. So it's important to link our spiritual lives and all of this to understand ukuthi kwenzakalani when we are fixing our spiritual lives, you know. Inani labantu ukuthi bayofila so hopeless in all these tents without ventilation lizoyehla, because abantu, once they are grounded, bazi umdali wabo, and know the situation around amadlozi, they won't feel the need to wear a rubber band and feel that that thing protects them and is giving them luck. Impudence zabo. Abanye benu, you are living on debt, where else you busy praising a rubber band. Ganti, it's your ancestors fighting for you, even though you have forgotten. And into secret lies that amadlozi are very patient with us. Imagine the generations that came before you. God bakhalela into eyodwa kuthiwa sicela umsebenzi noma sicela usibuyisele ekhaya. You know, sometimes that validation to show that izwi esilikhiphayo, it is being acknowledged, goes a very long way. So make sure that you reach out to your family members, nilungise imizi yenu, because sometimes you find ukuthi Emi amakaya, they don't have gatekeepers. Because amadlozi angithi maningi awana ma gatekeepers. Umuzi onganama gatekeepers, that is where kudlalela abathakathi. That is where kwenzeka izinto snacks. That is when izithola ukuthi bathi kwagudwa lapho ningazange nilizwe nalelo big. That is where you find ukuthi bathi kunomuntu omile lapho or kunespoke lapha ekhaya, because there are no gatekeepers. Idlozi will carry anything that is not of good spirit out of their yard, because they're there to protect and keep us and guide us. So we serve as that. So umuzi nomuzi mawuqiniswe ngamadlozi wawo, only to a certain extent. Uma ngabe ekhaya nako kuloyiwe whatever, and then etc. That's why I say do not be afraid to seek spiritual help. Get spiritual advice to know what is happening ngamakaya wasemagiti. But let us start and do things right. Let us be a better generation. Let us be our own advocates for imindeni yethu, because we are also gonna die someday. We are gonna be passed away someday, and it's going to be painful. It is going to be painful. The painful acts that you see when people pass on around in my street, they all come to our house. They torture us in our sleep and in our dreams, trying to pass on messages. If it's not my mama, like in the family, they do that because they were living and they were sounding bored and they were not being heard, or they were not actually themselves practicing izinto zamadlozi. So now once they're on the other side, they see things differently. So there is time for you, Gogo. There's also time for you, Mkulu, to make amends and fix izinto zagini. Start by acknowledging ukuthi inkinga ikhona. Uma ubona ukuthi inkinga ikhona, then you are able to move forward and saying, how do I fix the problem? Sometimes kuhle ukuzenza islima so that you can get the right assistance and attention in regards to inkinga yakho. Ngasho in a video that I did speaking ukuthi singama soja esithunyelwe lana, and as myself serving as an advocate, and as myself serving under this calling that I've been giving, or rather this purpose for amadlozi. That is why we are here, to help. You know, long gone are the days where we are going to pinpoint people and say, this one be with me, sometimes we need to think open-mindedly. I would always emphasize that spirituality is open-mindedness and spirituality is freedom. And if we are all, our roots are watered properly, our beninging, or rather our foundation, is structure zethu zizoma. Uma sikhuleka, everything we are doing kuzolunga. You want your ancestors to bless you, but the vault is empty. How are they gonna get izinto zagini where else akunamsamo ekhaya? Your life is a continued struggle. Ntane Dlozi, end this year off with a different perspective. I'm not saying buy a cow or buy a rabbit or buy a springbok or an ostrich. Do what is coming from your heart. Uwenze ulungise la kuya khona. And if you know that at the moment izimo ziyada, visit the graves that you can. Oro hambu uyophahla ehlane, noma esigangeni ukhulume nabantu bakini, ubabize bonke, ubacele ukuthi ngibonile inkinga la ihamba khona. Ngipheni amandla ukuthi ngenze lokho kufuze ukuthi ngikulungise, so that izimo zizoba ngcono. Amadlozi will hear you, they will give you that time. But singathi isikhathi masesifikile mabakupha leyo mali, bese you forget that you made a promise, because you are going to live a life that is in poverty. But this was a mouthful. Do leave your comments down below. This is a conversation within a conversation within a conversation. We can never really say ukuthi izinto zakwaDlozi. We have gotten the whole gist of everything. I might share everything that I've shared today. I might come back tomorrow with more information in light of whatever. But class is in session and we are moving one day at a time. This was another Oh My Dlozi video, and I hope there's something you took from this and you will do something about it. Don't just be using that Wi-Fi and data. Do something with all this information that you've been told. If kuyala noma inkinga iyabheda, kuhlezi kuno plan A, kube no plan B, kuno plan C. That is why it's important that you find the relative advice. And don't let people scam you, because people scam people in the name of healing. That is bad. when your instincts tell you, Guti, no, senor, please, don't do this, then it's saying to you, don't do it. Don't go to that person, because nabantu bayagangelana ngamadlozi wethu. That's the thing. You know, you might find someone and you think uzokusiza kanti athi ufaka amadlozi kanti ubasendela imessage ukuthi bathathu left balahleka. So sometimes ezinye izinto zinhle, and sometimes kuhle nokuthi in our families also give the authorities that we need to give to abo malume, give them that space, you know, to abo auntie, whoever, and let us stop this thing of patriarchy. Sometimes you find ukuthi eminye imizi akusenabo malume, or umalume lapho umuntu nje onganandaba ukuthi uyangena or uyaphuma, and naye empilweni ugive uphile akakwazi nokuphahla, and uanti ukhona, uanti makasukuma shisa impephe emsamo. Amadlozi awekho ngalendlela engicabanga ngayo ukuthi they will say you are a woman, you are a man. Amadlozi mawasibhekile thina esiphilayo siyingane, siyaphila ekhaya, and lokho sikwenzayo kubalulekile. If really it was about that, mhlambe kube kuthosa amadoda kuphela kuthiwa no, abafazi abalungelanga kuba izangoma. So sometimes let us stop izinto that were implemented in our mindsets by inkolo to say ukuthi a woman can't do this, a woman can't do that, you can't touch him, babe, you can't do that. Come on. Let us be advocates for imindeni yethu. Do you think ugogo wakho honestly would have a problem with you trying to assist them? Come on, let us. So I will definitely see you very soon. So thank you so much for coming through again today. I am Pabadimu, the advocate of Ilozi. Do not forget to subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to also follow me on Instagram. I am at Mpuabadimu, and do leave your comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. I am the advocate, Togozani.